Hello, everyone. Welcome to another live stream. I hope everyone has had a good week. A little bit of reading done today. Not as much as some weeks, but more than others, I will say. Aside from that, quite exciting over here right now. Some very, not surprising, because I think everyone knew what the deal would be. But we've had a quite an exciting political development this evening. Our state elections were today, and it's been a joy. It's been a joy to see our Labor Party, aka the Democratic Party, I guess, just win in an absolute landslide, more so than anyone else, which again was a given because the current government, which is a labor government, handled COVID very well, so people were going to vote for them. But the opposition party, aka our conservative parties, the liberals, actually aren't even the opposition anymore because they got so decimated. It's been a fun couple hours. Thank you, Aisha. It's been a fun couple hours, and it's been more so fun. Hello, welcome. That because, yeah, as I said, everyone knew that Labour would win, but people were like, okay, well, some areas may still have, Liberal candidate that they vote for. They were taken down to 2 seats, which is hilarious out of like the 60 seats that there are available to win. And then so they are no longer, as I said, the opposition party. The Nationals are the opposition party, and there's no real point. I mean, they will form a coalition, but there's no real point for them to do so because even with that, they'll only have 6 seats. So it's like, all right, well, that's interesting. Yes, so that's been fun. Again, not necessarily a surprise, but the total wipeout of the other parties, but especially Liberals has been good. And the election itself was called in 45 minutes. So just all of the additional confirmation of that over the last 3.5 hours has just been really fun to revel in. But we're not here to talk about Australian politics. That is not what this channel is about, and I never want it to be about that. But there's a couple manga that I read this week. Hopefully some interesting titles. I read 3 digital series, or 3 series digitally, perhaps is the better way to phrase that. And then I read 2 volumes. Hello, Rin. Welcome to the live stream. I read 2 volumes of a series that I have in print. And so, yeah, first of all, I talked about the series last week. It was one that I was following through the library, and I actually decided to check. I was like, I don't know when I'll finish this, maybe when the library gets the last volume, but I decided to check, and apparently, it turns out that through the digital library system, I was able to borrow the last volume, volume 13 of Ao How to Ride, which is like, I don't know why the volume was necessary, honestly. Like, okay, I read this maybe Sunday. I don't quite remember, because I was just like, I'm just going to get it over with. I've already read 95% of it. I just want to read it and get it done with, and then I can just never have to deal with it again. That sounds really mean, but like, it's rather than wait perhaps months for my library to get it physically, I was just like, I'll just see if there's an option for me to read and finish it now legally, always legally. And happily there was. So I read the last volume of How to Ride, volume 13, which So the main couple, Ko and Futaba, is that her name? I don't remember. Because honestly, as soon as I finished the series, like, all details of it were just expunged from my mind. But so in the end of the 12th volume, the main couple got together. Big surprise. Whoever would have guessed that? And so the last volume, like, I don't really remember what they did or what was happening or any of that, because the 12th volume ends, or like leads up to the ending where they're about to go on this date, right? Or they're about to meet in the park that has all the significance for them. And then she's waiting like she did back in middle school. And he's on his way. He's rushing to see her. But then, shock horror, he gets in an accident. He gets hit by a car. And you're like, oh no, will the boy die in the 11th hour, and this is gonna just be bait and switch? No, it's not. Spoilers for a very expected ending, but no, he doesn't die. He doesn't even like barely get injured, and she's like rushing to the hospital, and yeah, and then they like finally meet and finally make their relationship official and all that. So last volume, like volume 12 was really the finale of the main story insofar as those two get together. I don't remember what they did in the last volume at all. Like, I have zero clue. It's barely been a week. It's not even been a week. I have no clue. I know that the brother is going to America to teach, and then that prompts the other friend, the other male friend, to finally like, no, yeah, because he and the girl that he likes, who had the crush on the brother, was they went on a date. Did they go with the other two? I don't remember if it was a double date. I think it was, but then it just like continued on a normal date for them together or something, or maybe it was meant to be a double. I don't remember, but they went on a date and he's like, will you be my girlfriend? And she's like, yes, I will. And everyone's like, okay, wow, surprise, who would have thought? And then the last like third of the book was a Strobe Edge chapter, and I've never read Strobe Edge, so I'm like, okay, like, I don't know any of these characters, I don't know anything that's going on, I don't know any of the dynamics. Hello, welcome to the live stream. It's just been, it was, yeah, I mean, I said this last week, but I literally just didn't retain any of it. I didn't retain any of the details, and oh, welcome, thank you. We do have we haven't recorded it yet, but this month's podcast is hopefully going to be recorded this coming week. I'm glad you enjoy it. Thank you. And for anyone who is in the live stream, although I'm sure there's only 4 of you, so I'm sure all of you know what Read Right to Left is. It's the podcast that I co-host with my wonderful co-host, Ray from Whimsical Pictures. Please go listen to it if you care about manga. And this month we're talking about Fumi Yoshinaga, who is my favorite mangaka because it is March. It is my birthday month. I'm allowed to choose what topic I want. Also, I feel like I'm happy with how it worked out, but I also, maybe with some hindsight, we should have probably done Josei in March because of International Women's Day, but I didn't think about that, so it's fine. It's fine. We're going to talk about Fumi Yoshinaga, and of course, she writes a lot of wonderful women, so it doesn't matter. But back to Al Ride, Volume 13. Strobe Edge at the end of and I'm like, okay, I don't know any of these characters. I don't care about any of these characters. It's not like I cared about any of the characters in How to Ride much either, but like I kind of agree. It's not that I don't necessarily think that I was ever the target audience for this sort of shoujo, if that makes sense. I kind of I've never had, and this sounds okay for me. This sounds like really maybe cynical and also hypocritical because we know that I am a super huge fan of like childhood friends to lovers or like childhood friendship to romance, and like that's super tropey and it doesn't happen all like it's rare to happen in real life versus fiction and all this stuff. But I was never a fan of like ow. And that's kind of interesting. Not that these two in our ride were childhood friends, but they did have like a past, which maybe was why I was like, maybe this will interest me a bit more. But it's just when I was a teen, like okay, this sounds super old, but like when I was a teen, I'm not saying I wasn't dramatic and like preoccupied with the idea of this fantastic romance, but also I didn't have any relationships when I was a teenager, or in school at least, especially not like serious relationships. And I've never bought, and this is also mean because there's plenty of couples who meet in high school and live happily ever after, but I just never believed in this like, oh, the first person you date or your first true love in high school will equal your forever person. So that kind of idea that at 15 you found your person is insofar as like, yes, we will get married and have 2.5 children and live a beautiful, perfect life is just so, yeah, I'm just very cynical. And it's like, I don't know. I feel older with every single day that passes. And like, I'm happy that kids find this stuff fun and interesting, and a lot of people find this fun and interesting, and I get it and have always kind of like, I definitely still enjoy a lot of like high school romance, but a lot of them are like, I like them because they're rom-coms and they're lean more into the comedy, or I don't know, there's maybe something else that I kind of don't, I don't know, like I can't, doesn't mesh well. But yeah, I'm glad that it's licensed. I'm glad that there's and obviously like I don't hate all high school shoujo romance. We know this, but it's not necessarily that interesting or thrilling. And I'll read one to be like, that was fine. Sometimes you do just want to be wanting something simple and uncomplicated, although in saying that, all of these are always like so melodramatic and overcomplicated because these kids never communicate. They're just idiots who jump to conclusions, which teens are, so I can't even blame them. But like, I was never one for the tropes, so not really my thing. But I do want to be reading, I do want to try I Cannot Reach You. I don't know if I've ordered it yet. I think I was going to wait to see if my local comics shop had it, because they get some weird titles, like odd things that you don't necessarily expect. So that's what I'm going to do rather than order it. But it's definitely on my to get list. I mean, Aisha, maybe a little bit of both. You can be wise and cynical at the same time. And again, if you enjoy it, if it makes you happy, I'm so happy for you. But like, I am infinitely more interested in other shoujo beat titles than this sort of stuff. And thankfully, we've gotten a lot of those things. And no one is twisting my arm, making me read things or buy things, especially that I don't want, or, the opposite. Nobody's twisting people's arms or forcing them to buy things that they don't like. So, we live in a healthy ecosystem of a manga community, hopefully, where there's something for everyone. And I'm not going to say that I don't want these things licensed or anything. Like, I would never say that. But at the same time, I'm never really that interested when they are. Good for the fans. Not for me. Anyway, finished that. Was like, okay, completed. 5 out of 10. No, that's mean. 5.5 out of 10. and legitimately, like, I finished the last chapter of the story proper and just couldn't remember anything about any of the last 2 chapters that I'd read. I was like, okay. And so if that isn't a testament to just my disinterest, I don't know what could be. I followed that up with another digital title. This one's from Yen Press. This one was one that I got digitally because I knew that I probably wouldn't want to read it in print or own it in print. It's a type of series or type of book that's like I suspected would be kind of fun for the period of reading, but then I'd never revisit it. It does have a really nice, like, fancy hardcover edition that Yen released it in. I don't know why, but... And that is Penguin Gentleman, which is a single volume book about anthropomorphized penguins who are the owner/waiters of a particular cafe or restaurant or something. Hello, Yori Moon. Welcome to the live stream. And so it's basically like a book teaching you about penguin facts, but all of the characters are hot men, attractive men in tuxedos, because obviously penguins are black and white, and that's the pun. They look like they're wearing tuxedos. And it was fine. Like, I didn't find it funny. There's a lot of jokes I didn't find very funny. I learned some penguin facts. There's a lot in there that I was like, yeah, I know this, and I don't know if that's just me knowing an unusual amount about penguins. So I was in a position of, I don't know, penguin knowledge that the average person isn't. Or if it was just like, here's some basic penguin stuff that a lot of people, if not most people, know, plus some other stuff. And I don't know, penguins are cool, but I don't really care enough about them to want to revisit it. It kind of felt like a less effective Heaven's Design Team, because I find that series funnier. That series has a lot more potential because obviously there's like a lot of more different animals that you can learn facts about. I find the angel or like designers cast a bit more interesting than these human penguins. Most interesting penguin fact. I did learn some. I just don't necessarily know if I can remember any. There was something about, because all of them were named after, like, all of their names were what their breed is called, right? And so one of them, a little bit like, I don't know, teeth grittingly was called African. And it was just like, is there not a way? Well, and he was designed exactly the same as like all of the other characters. I'm like, I'm not sure if this works very well. I don't know. And then there was Gen 2, and then there was the chin strap, Emperor, King. What else? Yeah, there's just like a lot of, and some of them were like incidental facts about like, oh yes, this penguin has, look at all the different markings that these penguins have. Look at all these markings. This is the difference between these breeds, and these are the different types of penguin sizes and stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Like, also the first chapter, for most, if not all of it, it wasn't all of it, but like 90% of the first chapter was in color. And then the rest was in black and white. But the rest of the first chapter was in black and white, and then obviously the rest of the book was in black and white. And I was like, I don't really know why that is. Is there a reason you decided to not make the last like 3 pages of your first chapter color when the first 20 or 30 were? I don't know. Best, most interesting penguin fact. Oh yeah, so the Gen 2 penguins, I mean, it wasn't bad, but like, I also don't know if I'd read it again. And welcome 365801. Best or most interesting penguin fact is the Gen 2 penguin. The parents will force the chicks to chase them before they get fed. So like, oh, hey babies, I have all this delicious food that I'm gestating for you. You want to be fed? And they're like, yes, please feed us. And it's like, too bad, come catch me. They play tag, and then after the babies are all worn out, then the parents like, all right, here's your food. There you go. Which is, I mean, that's some tough love there. What happens if you don't? I don't know. Also, the first penguin to dive, like, I don't remember what it's called, but the first penguin to dive into the water it has a name because if you're the first penguin to dive in, obviously you're the most at risk to a predator. So it's like all of those penguins are like, I don't want to be the first one to go in the water. I don't want to do that. That seems like a stupid idea. Hello, Archangel Manga. Welcome to the live stream. I mean, yeah, get your steps in before a meal. Also, I don't know if I knew this or if this is common knowledge, but the king and the emperor penguins are actually related to each other. But initially, biologists didn't think so because the emperor penguin is just like so much bigger than the king penguin. Because the king penguin was called the king penguin because at the time it was the largest penguin that, people had ever seen, had ever discovered. And they can get to like 15 kilos heavy, big. But the emperor penguin, which they discovered afterwards, they can get to 30 kilos. I'm like, good God, that's way bigger. That's literally double. And that's a big chunky boy. And though, like, obviously emperor penguins are what most people recognize, because of like obviously documentaries and stuff like Happy Feet and whatever. Those are all emperor penguins. So maybe people are more familiar with them, but there's way more smaller species of penguin than emperor and king as well. Yeah, penguins can be brutal. They're very territorial. Well, most of them are pretty territorial. Emperor penguins aren't, but that's because, and this is another penguin fact, because obviously, again, if you've seen documentaries, when the fathers are warming the eggs, they all huddle close together and kind of rotate to protect from the Arctic, cold. This is the middle of winter. And so they can't afford to be territorial because they got to be up in each other's business all of the time. Yeah, but a lot of times, not only will they steal like someone else's baby or egg or whatever, a lot of times during like mating or, trying to find a mate or whatever, there's typically a lot more females than males for penguins in like the larger penguins, because the males are the ones who, I don't know, they're more at risk. They tend to die more. So you will often get like multiple female penguins fighting over the same male penguin, which is not typical for most species. And it was kind of interesting. I was like, okay. I mean, it kind of makes sense then as to why penguins, they have certain, attraction ways versus like other birds. I mean, they definitely do all the like, oh yes, hey, I can do a dance and I'll give you a rock and I'll build a nest and stuff. And doesn't this make me look like a super cool guy? But also, if he's rejected by the female penguin, there's like a whole bunch of others. So it's not necessarily that for the Arctic penguins, they can be as choosy as like other birds tend to be. Anyway, I don't know why my nose is itchy. Apologies. Yeah, circle of life. Wild animal kingdom is wild, and Arctic animals they survival skills. But yes, David Attenborough, I think everyone loves. He's a global treasure, not just a national treasure, not just, a continental treasure. He is one of the greatest people. I think everyone agrees. He's just super cool and has done so much for awareness of animals and the ecology and the environment. And he's just he has such an incredibly soothing voice. And he's so perfect at what he does, and he's so well informed. And when he dies, which at some point he will, the world will grieve. And I don't want it to happen, but I also will rewatch all of the Earth, especially Earth. I really like those ones, but phenomenal documentary. But yeah, anyway, Penguin Gentleman is about 4 or 5 humanized penguins, hot, buff, handsome men in suits. Well, no, in tuxedos, who are waiters, but also they never do any restaurant stuff. They're just hanging around, and learning penguin facts. And they're like, oh, look at all our similarities. Look at all our differences. Comedy ensues because different penguin species do things differently. And you're like, I didn't find it that funny. I would recommend, well, if you're looking for an animal fact comedy Heaven's design team is better. If you're looking for hot anthropomorphized animals where you're like, oh, animal facts, but also hot guys, but also I'm not a furry, then maybe Penguin Gentleman is your thing. And if that's the case, then you're very lucky because Viz gave you a lovely hardcover book. But yeah, I'm glad that I read it digitally. I didn't invest in the hardcover because I'm never going to read it again. And I don't need it, want it, I'm not going to revisit it. Finally, for digital, because I do have another thing to talk about. But finally, for digital, I read the first volume of Play It Cool Guys, which is another yen. I think it's yen. Yen? I don't think it's Kodansha. I think it's yen. Another new debut. This is an ongoing series, a full color series as well. About 4 cool guys who seem cool and put together, but are kind of ditzy and a little bit forgetful and clumsy, and have different ways of handling that, and they're just kind of lives. And it was good. I liked it. I don't know how well the joke will maintain itself over the course of an ongoing series. But the last chapter, so there's a 19-year-old college student, 20-year-old college student. There's a college student. It's very lovely full color. I will say that. So if nothing else, it looks really nice. Yeah, it's cute. It's fun. As I said, it's not I don't think it's something that's sustainable long term unless it's only going to be 2-3 volumes. And even then, it kind of didn't need to be 2-3 volumes. I feel like if you gave it a chunky release of 300, 400 pages, you could probably fit all the story that you wanted to in there. But the premise is that there's these 4 guys all in different stages of life, all with different backgrounds, but they're all kind of, ditzy, not super they're not dumb or anything, but they just kind of make ditzy, silly mistakes, and how they handle that differs, but they all kind of try to play it off. Or if you just look at them, everyone around them is man, he looks cool. But then some of their friends or coworkers are yeah, but he's a bit of an airhead. But that's good. We like that about him. That's the charm point. It's that gap moe. The gap moe of looking like you got your shit together or looking like you're, cool and stoic and, too cool to ever make mistakes. But then also forgetting to plug your headphones in and play your music really loud and everyone can hear your cringy music. And you're why are my headphones quite quiet? And it's oh, hi, yeah, hi, we can hear your music, right? And so yeah, that's kind of the basic premise. There's the first guy, I guess he's the main character. He's the one we're introduced to, and he's the one that kind of caps this first volume off. But he's in university. He's just a normal guy. But he's also super self-conscious whenever he makes one of these mistakes. So he'll go to a party and he's he doesn't like parties or anything that much, but he's talking to this girl and she's just chatting and whatever, and he's I don't know if you know, but your top's slipped off your shoulders. Your shirt's slipping. And she's oh yeah, no, that's how it's supposed to be. That's just the style. And he's oh well, you shouldn't, I hope you don't get cold, right? And everyone's laughing and finding it quite funny and cute and whatever. And meanwhile he's just oh my god, I can never speak to anyone ever again. Why would anyone design clothes like that? What? Oh my god, I will never go to a party ever again in my life. He's just so super embarrassed, but he just kind of like doesn't outwardly show that he's embarrassed. He's just like internal screaming like, why am I so awkward? And like, honestly, I get that. I feel that. I was never cool though, so nobody expected me to play it off well. And then like he's gone to like the convenience store and stuff and like given the cashier his wallet instead of the item, or like he's going to buy something but then has forgotten his wallet, and the cashier's like, it's fine, like don't worry about it, because she's used to it. And he's just like, oh my god, I can never go to that store again. Although he keeps going back to the store, so I'm like, well, he can't be that embarrassed, right? Then there's a high school guy who I think he's on the basketball team. Yeah, I think he's on the basketball team. He's 17. And he's the one who like goes jogging, but he hasn't connected his headphones, or like he'll be on the train playing music and everyone can hear it because his headphones aren't connected, and it's really loud, and everyone's just like, oh, your music is like really loud, your headphones aren't plugged in. And he's like, oh yeah, I meant to do that. And everyone's like, it's so obvious that you didn't mean to do that, but like, that's hilarious, guy. I mean, keep trying. We're not convinced, but like, why do you think anyone would believe that? He also, like, in one of his basketball games, he was wearing the number inside out, and he kept like noticing it and wanting to change it, but kept getting caught up in games. And then finally he's like, oh yeah, I need to change it with the photo done, but he forgets because again, he just got preoccupied. And he's like, yeah, I meant to do that. And everyone's like, okay, whatever you say, guy. Like, we totally believe you. We don't believe you at all. That's a really, really ineffective lie. But keep trying. Like, keep trying, guy. And then there's an office worker who's in his late 20s. And he's like, actually, he's put together, gets his job done, works well. But, like, again, he'll forget things. He went for a nap, and one of his coworkers was like, oh, do you want to try this new sleep mask that my friend gave me? Her company's, putting these out. And he's like, oh yeah, sure, okay, thanks. And he goes to the break room or the nap room or whatever, and he forgets to he has it on, but he forgets to put it on over his eyes. And the girl, she's like, oh yeah, you put it on your eyes, right? Like, you sleep with it, covering your eyes. He's like, I know how to use a sleep mask. But then another one of the coworkers, goes into the nap room and is like, does he not know how to use the sleeping eye mask? What? Oh my god. And he's like, and then he wakes up, has to go to a meeting, and he's wearing it like a headband the whole time. Like, he's wearing this. And all of the coworkers are like, do we say something? Like, he's in the middle of a presentation with this eye mask on, and obviously he hasn't noticed. What do we say? Are we supposed to tell him he has an eye mask on? Or is that the new fashion? Is that what the kids these days are wearing? And then at some point he realizes it, and he just doesn't acknowledge it. And then his coworkers are like, oh yeah, he finally realized. So yeah, okay, cool. And then the last one, and I like this guy a lot, out of all of the cast. I like the two, the college students. He's an art student, and he's making the same ditsy mistakes. He has the terrible direction. He just always goes in the wrong direction. He'll fucking trip over nothing. But he just starts laughing at himself. He's like, this is ridiculous. If he just finds his own ineptitude hilarious, and that's a good attitude. If you can't fix it, embrace it, and it's better to be, I don't know, positive about your own silliness than then get all cut up about it, despite me feeling like very relating a lot to the poor other guy who does get like mortified at all of his mistakes. The other uni kid, I'm like, that's a better attitude. Like, it is better to laugh at yourself when your friend is like, oh, you have really cool style that you wore 2 different socks today, and he just like starts laughing. He's like, I didn't even realize that I was wearing 2 different socks, but I guess it's that kind of day. This might be the newest fashion trend. I'm a trendsetter. And those are the people that make it in life, because that actually is playing it off well. That is actually a convincing way to live your life. But yeah, it's like Grin said, and I kind of echo and agree. It's fun, it's cute, it's like worth a chuckle. It's nice that it's full color. It's not one that I think has a lot of power to be sustained over the course of like multiple volumes. We'll see how funny it stays in volume 2, 3, 4, however many. Yeah, it's at the end of the last chapter, all of 4 of these boys like meet, or guys, I should say. One is my age, but they all finally meet, and throughout the course of the series they kind of like interact a little bit, but they don't actually know each other. But in the final chapter they meet, and so maybe there will be more shenanigans when you get a whole bunch of ditzes, whole bunch of airheads together. But we'll see. Again, one that I'm happy that I tried digitally, because it's not one that I think I would necessarily revisit, depending on how well it's executed, but I don't think it's not a must-read series. If it sounds fun, if it sounds cute, check it out, but it's not like, don't rush out and go buy it at your local bookstore. And finally, the only print books that I read this week, volume 2 and 3 of this series. It is a dark fantasy series from Kodansha with a European setting. Hello, Zach. Welcome to the live stream. And that is The Witch and the Beast by Kosuke Satake. It still says on the back, a dark stylish fairy tale for fans of Holic and Noragami. And honestly, I said this with the first volume, those are not the series that I would liken this to. This definitely has like more of a European magic fairy tale feel to it than the yokai kind of kami sense that those 2 series have. Yeah, so this is, what are their names? I never remember anyone's names. This is the story of these 2 who worked for, or who currently work for like this magical, this association that kind of like makes sure that magical stuff is, that witches and those who can control magic aren't causing problems. And they're also, this character, Yido, is trying to find the witch that cursed her in order to break the curse, in order to retain or to become herself again, which is not her on the cover. And her partner is Ashaf, who is a mage, I think. Or he does magic. Their partnership, he's the brain, she's the brawn. She's definitely a berserker sort of like fists blazing fighter. Absolutely feral woman, which is phenomenal. I do really like this art style a lot as well. I think it it does feel, again, kind of very fairy tale-ish, kind of twisted dark fantasy. I think it does it really well. Volume 2 also, yeah, it is. So I'm enjoying this one a lot. It's kind of very much in my wheelhouse of things that I like. Volume 2 introduces necromancer character and kind of the idea of necromancy in this world and the realities of like a society when you can literally resuscitate the dead and the various issues with that, or non-issues. So volume 2 finishes up the kind of serial killer witch arc that was initially introduced at the end, or very much kind of preluded to in the first book. And then, yeah, we have our necromancy. And then this one is more so them chasing a different witch who has a different set of powers, and introducing the Paladin Corps, who I guess are related to some sort of religious organization, church, whatever, as is typically the case. Who are, I guess, kind of the usual witch hunters, maybe. But yeah, I really like the artwork in this series a lot. Guido and Ashaf have a quite fun rapport between them. The way that they've handled all of the supernatural or fantastical elements in this is really good. What else can I say? If you like dark fantasy, definitely give it a shot. It does fall, in my opinion, more in line with like European fairy tale, kind of Grimm's fairy tale types of stories. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of like violence and dark magic stuff going on, more so than the comparisons that they did of like Noragami and Holic, where, I mean, Noragami has action, but that's a very distinctly Japanese series. And Holic is also, I don't know how much action is in Holic, but it's always felt very distinctly like Asian fantasy comparatively. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't read Holic, but I have watched a big chunk of it. So I don't think I'm completely ill-informed. But yeah, it's good. I definitely recommend this series if it sounds interesting to you. Yeah, volume 4 is out for this already, but yeah, Gothic is probably a good comparison. It's not so much a mystery solving series. It kind of has shades of Black Butler in so far as like being action, having a supernatural element or fantasy element, less overtly appealing to Fujoshi, but it kind of has that more, yeah, European sensibility. And it's more so, and the reason I make the Black Butler comparison as well is because it is sort of a revenge story as well, because it, as I said, Guido is looking for the witch that cursed her to break the curse. Exactly, and that like I understand that it's they're making the comparison because those are series that they own and that they can talk about. I don't know. I haven't read all of Kodansha's stuff, but I feel like there's better comparisons. Like, I will give them Noragami if they really want to, twist your arm about it. I've said that 3 times tonight. I don't know why I'm stuck on that phrase, but I feel like, considering the amount of Kodansha titles that I've read, there's probably a better choice than the 2 of those together. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a crazy person. That it wouldn't be the first time, and it certainly won't be the last time. But I just feel like even if it's just their digital stuff, I feel like there's something better to compare this to in Kodansha Library. But I am not going to go into the other room to see what I have because I am obviously on the live stream and can't be bothered. Yeah, I mean, it's neither here nor there. It doesn't impact how good the series itself is. I'm just, the only reason I bring it up is because if you are reading the blurb, and that's the only kind of exposure that you have to the series, I wouldn't make those comparisons. I just wouldn't give them comparison. Like, I just wouldn't put a comparison on the back. I wouldn't say, oh, if you like this, if you don't have a series close enough to fit that theming. I don't know. I mean, I'm not in charge of marketing for Kodansha, probably for good reason. But yeah, that's all I read this week. This series, Play It Cool Guys, Volume 1, Penguin Gentleman, the single volume, and the final volume of I'll Haru Ride, Volume 13. In other news, I don't know what. So literally when I was starting this live stream, Square Enix had a couple license announcements. I don't think anything that I'm interested in. I don't know what their second one is. It's something video game related, which means that I have no interest in it. Yeah, Final Fantasy. Which is not a surprise because that's what their other video game stuff has been. They also had an isekai manga announcement, which I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not that interested. Excitingly, Denpa announced a new, they will be releasing the Char counterattack manga. I don't follow Gundam. I haven't seen any Gundam. I don't read any Gundam. I'm not really into Gundam or mecha typically. But of course, Ed Chavez is like, it's not a surprise. But that's really cool, really exciting. I hope the classic shoujo, classic sci-fi. I'm assuming it'll be a shoujo, but who knows? I hope that the classic sci-fi that I presume will be announced next week will be something I'm interested in, just like the first license that they announced, March Comes in Like a Lion, is something that I am very much interested in and very excited for. And thirdly, we had the confirmation. It wasn't really a surprise, but the confirmation of volumes 5 and 6 of Twittering Birds Never Fly coming out from June, the ongoing BL Yakuza series from Ko Yonada. And again, not a surprise. When they confirmed that they were continuing with the 4th volume, it was kind of, I saw it as a given that they would try to keep pushing volumes out for that series because it's one of only 2 titles that they have that I feel make them money, and they'd be idiots not to try and capitalize on that whilst they have the opportunity. Obviously, I don't like June very much, but I do like that series very much. So in the same way as I do with Tokyo Pop, I will buy June's titles if it's a title that I enjoy and I'm excited about. I'm not a hypocrite. So very happy that we've gotten some interesting licenses. I'm sure there's more coming in the coming weeks. Monday, Discotheque had their big licensing. Well, it wasn't super big, but they had their licensing event. Nothing that super interesting for me aside from Dear Brother, which surprisingly was another series that I called, so definitely will be getting that one. Nice to see a lot more of those sorts of titles coming to Blu-ray from Discotheque. I really appreciate when they put out good stuff, which they almost always do, so can't complain. But that's anime, and I don't know how much of the manga community is necessarily interested in that. I presume that Char's counterattack is related to original Mobile Suit Gundam. Because I don't follow. I just said I don't follow anything in relation to Gundam. I know nothing. Like, I know some of the names of the series, like Turn A, Gundam Wing, Gundam Seed, and Iron Blood Orphans, which is the actual like one that people enjoy now because it's new. And of course the original. And then there's like the UC universe, and I don't know. There's just like so much, and I don't know, and I don't care about giant robots enough to start caring. I recognize its significance, and again, like it's sort of unsurprising, but it is really good news that, you know, this new Gundam manga is finding its way to English. I'm certainly sure fans are happy. And Ed Chavez is definitely happy because, as I said, he's definitely a Gundam fan, as proven over the course of his career. But, you know, there's some other stuff that I'm more interested in, and also Denpa. Like, I appreciate them and I really like a lot of their books. I just wish that they were a little bit more consistent hitting their release dates. And it's not even COVID related. I mean, it's kind of infamous at how many release dates Kaiji missed the first and second volumes. Like, it took forever for those to come out. I don't even know if the second volumes come out. I feel like I've seen people post about it, but I don't know. I am still waiting for volume 2 of Heavenly Delusion because I really like that series and I want to continue it. But it's been like 2 years. And again, I'm sure COVID didn't help, but it also wasn't a problem caused by COVID. So I want that, more volumes of that. I want the Little Leo book that they've announced. There's a lot of their titles that I'm interested in, but when you pre-order, you're like, well, am I actually going to get this in May, or am I going to get this in May in 3 years? So, you know, they're not as bad as Udon, where we're still waiting for any sort of update in regards to Sugar Sugar Rune, if they even have the license for that still. But yeah, like, I kind of, I mean, that doesn't surprise me. How did obviously, because you have typically a BL focus, the Valentine's Day licensing from Sublime, I don't even remember what they licensed. A whole 3 series from one creator, which I've heard are good, so I will try them. That's fine and fun. 7 Seas' month of licenses was like surprising and amazing at the sheer volume of stuff. It was like 35 titles by the end of it, but not very much I was interested in, aside from stuff I already was interested in, a la, you know, Classmates verse stuff. I think that's it. I don't remember anything else. I'd have to actually check. I don't know if that is a meh yes or a meh no. But you know, it is only March. I expect a lot of the large announcements to come during the summer season, the US summer season, because it's convention season. Obviously, it's all online convention stuff, but, you know, companies are holding onto their exciting announcements for the online, like San Diego Comic-Con and all of these, like, Anime Expo and stuff, where they're going to get a lot more people actively interested. And I hope, like, obviously I'm in a country where I'm nowhere near where any of these conventions are happening. And I do hope in the future coming that we do see companies like actually posting on social media their license announcements at the same time that they announce them at events in the future. You get, again, after the global plague is over, because it just makes it more convenient than having to follow like or see who's tweeting about things. Or having to wait till after everything's over to get the full announcements. I don't know. I feel like the pandemic has taught companies that there's ways to successfully create buzz and to make announcements and distribute news that isn't completely reliant on events and like event staff and conventions and, you know, having a big hurrah with 5,000, like a 5,000 person event. I don't know. It just makes it a bit more convenient for me, which is the only thing I care about, my own convenience. Yeah, I mean, in saying that, like, I don't know the creator that Sublime licensed this thing for. And again, I've heard good things, but I don't actually know. I couldn't tell you because I'm not like up to date with current BL. Like, I really am not, because obviously I don't read scans, and unless something has had a lot of positive buzz, I don't hang around with a lot of people who read scans either. And I don't interact with a lot of like Fujo community. I'm not exposed to like new exciting BL titles. So I literally just don't know what it is out there. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like, good to know. If it's a creator I know, that I'm like, okay, sure, I'll read her stuff. And if it's not, I'm like, okay, well, if it sounds interesting, I'll try it. If it's not, I won't try it. That's exciting. If you got the if you got that. Yeah, the combination of Vertical and Kodansha, I think, is a long time coming. I don't know that there was anything super exciting that Vertical had licensed, or anything that felt like uniquely Vertical over the last couple years. It was you know, it was a co-label or a subprint of Kodansha for so long that they were barely indistinguishable. I don't know what their last license Vertical is or will be. Was. The last thing I remember them licensing was Daily Lives of High School Boys. I'm sure they licensed things after that. I just don't remember. And of course, I'm sure those series will continue under the Vertical label or the new Vertical label. But I just don't. There really wasn't a need for distinguishing the two, so it's not entirely unexpected that this happened. And I feel like COVID was kind of the final nail in the coffin to put Vertical out of its misery. And Kodansha's doing so well anyway. You know, they have the backing from the Japanese publisher. They have so many titles that they can monopolize on. They have a very healthy digital first program. They have so many very popular titles in print. So, like, and so many titles were stuff that would typically, like, prior to this, fit under the Vertical banner. That was there really needed a distinction. So yeah, Ren, I don't know. I saw a lot of people excited for them. I'm definitely going to be reading them. I know that it was a creator that a lot of people are super keen to get her stuff in English. So I'm hoping they're good. I would presume they're good. But yeah, I don't actually know. So you have to give me a clue. You have to give me a clue. Is it a single volume release, or is it like a single volume from a series release? Because the other thing is, I don't keep up to date with what's in and out of print either. I'm just really lazy. I buy things when I buy things, and I try not to wait too long so I don't have to worry about paying out of print prices. Super rare vertical releases. Oh, Sakuran. Is it Sakuran? I feel like it's Sakuran. If it's not, then I don't have a clue. But if it is, then yay me. And if, for those who haven't read Sakuran, if you can, series. A series that I love. That vertical releases? Oh, volume 9 of What Did You Eat Yesterday? That's vertical, right? Is that vertical? I think that's vertical. Yes, Fumi Yoshinaga. Is it volume 9 of What Did You Eat Yesterday? That seems more in line. Again, if not, then I mean, maybe it just prompted them to do another reprint. Yay! I'm so smart. I actually, it surprises me that, well, not necessarily surprises me that certain volumes are out of print for that series, but at the same time, it kind of did surprise me because it's a newer-ish volume compared to, there's 8 volumes all still in print for the most part, I believe. But yeah, who knows? But yeah, so that's everything. I talked about all of the books that I read, which wasn't a huge amount, and I didn't get any novel reading or anything done because I've been busy. I can't do everything. I can't read all the time. There's a lot of licensing happening in the hobby sphere, which is pretty fun and interesting and not always stuff that I'm curious about, but yeah, there's a lot to go on to. It's good to know that Love Nest is extremely popular. I presume that's one of Sublime's upcoming new titles, and one that I will be trying because, as I said, I will definitely be, or if it's not one that they announced, it's one that people are hoping that it's indicative because I don't know, and I'm not going to check. I'm not going to check because I'm not going to scroll through Sublime's Twitter at 11 o'clock at night. But yeah, so as always, thank you guys for joining me. Kind of a shorter stream this week. Not a huge amount to talk about, but of course I rambled on for over an hour anyway. And I hope everyone had a wonderful week. I will see you next time. But, before I forget, and I'm surprised I remembered, but in the US at least, daylight savings is ending. It is over, or will be over. I think the 14th or something. I don't know. So at some point, daylight savings is over. We don't have daylight savings where I live. We do have it in Australia, but not where I live because we don't deal with that. But it means that the time will shift again. I haven't made a decision as to whether or not it means that I'll keep starting at 10 my time, which will become 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to the US, or if I will just keep it 9 a.m. Standard Time for the US, which means it's 9 p.m. here for me, which means that I can go to bed earlier. Who knows? Haven't made the decision yet, but I will keep you updated via Twitter whenever I do. I'm kind of leaning towards the latter, but it might be better to keep it the former. I don't know. We don't know. Haven't made the decision yet. But anyway, Thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you in the next video. Hopefully the podcast will be up next week. If not, the week after, definitely. I have some other videos to post as well, and I will see you then. I hope you enjoy, and yeah, have a good rest of your weekend, have a good night, and just keep reading your manga, enjoying your manga, and yeah, have a good time, guys.